We're at EarthX 26, and we're talking about something important. We are going to talk about the air and the environment, of course, and we're talking with Tania, who is with the Oxygen Project. You care about the air we breathe. Why is that?
It seems like such a simple question, but in these times it's not, because a lot of the air people are breathing is not clean enough to breathe. I had a brother who grew up with asthma, so I knew firsthand what not having clean air meant, although I didn't know at the time why he had asthma. And now that I know what climate change is and why our air is polluted in the first place, I know that there needs to be change. There needs to be a transformation in our society, government, and the way we do things so that we can have that clean air again.
So you call yourself a climate justice activist or climate justice advocate. So tell me what that means. What is climate justice?
Yeah, great question. I like to make sure justice is in there because I started being a climate change activist because I realized how human health is really affected by climate change and also animal health, and how it's really all connected. How all life on Earth is connected, and how that impacts our well-being, mental, physical, spiritual, all aspects of our well-being.
Yes.
And for some people, it affects them even more, just because of the way societies and governments have ran for thousands of years, decades, whatever time span you want to put it, there is injustice everywhere, unfortunately. And I believe that we cannot get to a more sustainable or equitable world if we don't make sure that climate justice is in there. We can implement all these great climate solutions, but if we do it in a way that the same marginalized people and communities continue to be marginalized, I don't think we'll actually get to the better world that we all want to strive for.
Of course, now you kind of forced me to ask that very difficult question. So how do we do that? I mean, of course, we agree it needs to be done, but how do we do that?
Yeah, it's no one silver bullet answer. I really just think it needs to be community-led. I've lived in different parts of the US. My parents are from Colombia. And so having this different background, this multicultural background, I have seen firsthand how a lot of times communities aren't a part of the decisions that are happening in their neighborhood, in their environment. And so if they were, maybe we wouldn't have Cancer Alley in Louisiana. Maybe there wouldn't be so much pollution in our rivers. Maybe there would be a lot more democratic decisions being taken place because people are empowered, they're given the resources, they're given the knowledge to be able to say, oh, actually, we don't want that in our communities. Whereas now, that's not really the case. A lot of times, oh, we're just going to put an oil plant, a petrochemical plant there, and the people there have no say, and then they get affected.
And, well, of course, when you try to put a new power plant in Beverly Hills, the whole world will be against. No, not the whole world. The whole world of the whole community of Beverly Hills will rise up, and it probably won't happen.
Exactly. No, that's actually a great point. That it's not only about if the communities can have that knowledge, but do they have the connections and power to be able to say, I don't want this in my community? Because one thing is being able to know, oh, I don't want that. Another thing is being able to actually tell the government, please don't put that in my community, and the government listening. So Great point.
So where do you have the most success with your campaigns?
I just love nature. I love the Earth's ability to give life, to continue giving and giving, even though so much has been taken. And so for me, I see a lot of success in ecosystem restoration and seeing how people, once they plant forests, how they grow, once they just give back to biodiversity, whether that's doing something small. I live in an apartment. I have a few plants on my balcony. The birds sometimes visit, so it seems really small, but when we do those little small things, they add up. And so I see a lot of potential, and it's already happening all over the world, but I think it could happen even more, protecting the environments that are around you. And it'll be better for you in the long run. If you want more green spaces, why don't you create them?
Well, that's the point, but I was going to go there. But so, you have... there's good research that shows if you have more trees in neighborhoods, you have better air and better health for people. So a simple thing to do is to make sure that even in those, disadvantaged communities, to basically start planting trees.
Yeah, it can have so many benefits, especially now in the urban areas that we live in. I live in Austin, Texas now, and there's a division known as I-35, this huge highway. East of that is East Austin, which is known to have a lot of redlining in the past, which just means a lot of Black and brown communities were put in these areas because of different policies that were in place. And that is noticeably less green. There's noticeably less tree cover in that area. And so when we talk about climate justice, it's about not just planting trees on the west side of the I-35, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it'll be better for everyone in the long run.
So air is important. I guess water is important too.
Definitely.
So what is your most important focus? Is that mostly on air, or because water is done by big systems and usually should be clean anyway, or how do you see that?
Air, water, soil. You know, I try to advocate for all three as much as I can. Water specifically, I see this beautiful movement of rights in nature coming out, and it's with people all over the world. And it's beautiful when it comes to water, because I'm noticing bodies of water specifically getting rights in the line of court. And this is from New Zealand to parts of Latin America to even the US. There's a city in Washington who gave rights to the orcas that are near them, and that gives essentially rights to the ocean, because if you're giving rights to an animal that lives in the ocean, you have to then protect the ocean. Yeah. So we're protecting our water in different ways, and I think giving rights to bodies of water is a great way to make sure they're clean, that they support the life underwater and above water as much as possible.
What do you consider your biggest success in your, well, still young career?
Oh, that is a great question. You know, I think it has just been just connecting with so many people. I feel like a lot of times, I actually just passed by a talk right before this about youth leadership. And I feel like a lot of times there is still this lack of representation in different communities when it comes to the climate space, maybe because a lot of the climate space is still climate tech. It's still these different types of solutions that are still great, but we also need to come back to, again, the community-led. And if it's community-led, who's in that community? And that's what I care about the most, because I want to see people like my parents be invited to that, who are immigrants. I want to see people who are my age, and I'm in my late 20s, even younger than that, be able to make decisions in their own communities. And so I don't know if it's one necessarily victory, but being able to connect with all these people and then just insert myself into these campaigns and be welcomed, it's beautiful, and it reminds me that anyone can do it as long as you take the time.
You talk with a lot of positive energy. It's also true that many people of your generation are pretty depressed when it comes to the environment. So what your peers, your friends, what do you hear there?
Oh yes, eco-anxiety is a new term that's being used. I think I've heard climate anxiety as well, and it's good that we have these terms to be able to explain what we're feeling. I definitely feel it a lot, actually. Next week, I'll be hosting a climate cafe in Austin, Texas, and it's for that reason. We're just going to get together. I'm going to have some free snacks and beverages, and we're just going to talk about our emotions, because sometimes when you're especially in this work and when you're constantly advocating, constantly pushing for change, it can be tiring. Mm-hmm. And I know that I can't keep doing that every day and not have just a break where I can just be with the earth, just be with the trees, just be with the water, be with the wildlife, and sometimes just talk to people about it. So it is very real. Everyone who's feeling it, you're validated. I'm with you on that. And I think the best solution is being able to, one, take action, because at least I get hope from action, because then I realize, oh, change is happening. But also, two, take those breaks for yourself. And the earth is always waiting for you to give love back. When I don't feel well, I go for a walk in the woods and I feel immediately better. So that is my best cure, my best prescription for anyone who's feeling that. Go outside.
Well, sure. But also, do you feel that you have enough energy to continue this ongoing campaign? But this never ends, right? What you're trying to do, what you're doing is there's no end goal. There's always something better to do.
It's for a lifetime, and you can look at it both ways. You can look at it as, oh, how dreadful, I have to do this for a lifetime. That seems so long. and it's so much work and it's so tiring and people aren't listening. But on the other end, you can also see it as what a privilege to be able to work at something I care about for the rest of my life. And this is not a privilege that a lot of people just generation before me maybe had. They probably had to work just to care about their family. So the fact that I can do something I'm passionate about, yes, it's hard, but also the fact that I love it so much and care about life on Earth so much, I think that alone will sustain me. And I will find ways to, again, reconnect with the Earth, reconnect with others whenever I'm feeling down. And so far, that's been helping. So it's been almost a decade, so I think it's working.
It works. So what are the positive signs that you see?
A lot of positive signs. The best signs I see are in studies and cases of these different groups coming together to create change, maybe just in one city or one town at a time, but this change can then scale and replicate into other areas and set a precedent for other areas. For example, I just learned about indigenous people in Ecuador and in the Amazon that are using drones and surveillance technology to guard their own forest. And so we can combine traditional knowledge with new technology to be able to protect our ecosystems. I also have heard of so many businesses that are giving back, that are partnering with nonprofits, like through 1% for the Planet, and having these certifications so that we as consumers can know, oh, I want to support this brand, whereas other brands, maybe I don't want to put my money towards that. Maybe I don't want to support them because they're not aligned with my values. So I think everywhere I look, I see the solutions. Sometimes they may not be as big as the things that seem bigger on the news that are dreadful and tragic, but I have really learned to look for the good news, and then it keeps coming to me.
Is there going to be a day that you will say, we have achieved climate justice?
You know, I'm not sure. And I think more people are realizing that maybe it's not about the goal, but more about the journey. If the journey brings us more together across party lines, across sectors, across industries, to make a better world for all of us, I would say yes, that we achieved it in a sense. Will it look the same way? Will I see it the same way as another person? Like, will my vision for the future be the same as another person? Probably not. But there will be a way where we can meet somewhere and decide, okay, this is better for us than it was before. And we'll just keep getting better and better. That's the goal.
Thank you, Tania.
Thank you.